The environmental and corporative culture. The environments in which business operate are increasingly dynamic, requiring managers to be ready to react and respond to even subtle environmental shifts. Model was shaken with it, learned that a Chinese subcontractor used lead paint while manufacturing its toys. Because of the potential health hazard, Mattel recalled nearly 850,000 of its most popular toys months before its holiday selling season. Not only did the recall frighten consumers, but it sparked a global debate about the safety of Chinese-made products. Model managers moved swiftly to reassure nervous parents of its high safety standards in its Chinese factories. In addition, CEO Robert Eckert explained that recall to consumers on the company's website and announced steps Mattel was taking to prevent further recalls. Mattel's prompt response, teamed with its long-standing history of successful manufacturing in China, led many independent analysts and watchdog groups to say that it may be the best role model for how to operate prudently in China. Mattel realized very early that they were always going to be in the crosshairs of sensitivities about child labor and product safety, and they knew they had to play it straight. Mattel was in China before China was cool, and they learned to do business there in a good way, says M. Eric Johnson, a Dartmouth management professor. Environmental surprises, like the one Mattel faced in China, leave some managers unable to adapt their companies to new competition, shifting consumer interests, or new technologies. The study of management traditionally focused on factors within the organization, a closed system view, such as leading, motivating, and controlling employees. The classical behavioral and management science schools described in Chapter 2 look at internal aspects of organizations over which managers have direct control. These views are accurate but incomplete. To be effective, managers must monitor and respond to the environment and open systems view. The events that have the greatest impact on an organization typically originate in the external environment. In addition, globalizations and worldwide societal turbulence affect companies in new ways, making the international environment of growing concern to managers everywhere. This chapter explores in detail components of the external environment and how they affect the organization. The chapter also examines a major part of the organization's internal environment, corporate culture. Corporate culture is shaped by the external environment and is an important part to the context within which managers do their jobs. The external environment. The tremendous and far-reaching changes occurring in today's world can be understood by defining and examining components of the external environment. The external organizational environment includes all elements existing outside the boundary of the organization that have the potential to affect the organization. The environment includes competitors, resources, technology, and economic conditions that influence the organization. It does not include those events so far removed from the organization that their impact is not perceived. The organization's external environment can be further conceptualized as having two layers, general and task environments. As illustrated in Exhibit 3.1, the general environment is the outer layer that is widely dispersed and affects organizations. Indirectly, it includes social, economic, legal, and political, international, natural, and technological factors that influence all organizations about equally. Increases in the inflation rate or the percentage of dual career couples in the workforce are part of the organization's general environment. These events do not directly change day-to-day operations, but they do affect all organizations eventually. The task environment is closer to the organization and includes the sectors that conduct day-to-day transactions with the organization and directly influence its basic operations and performance. It is generally considered to include competitors, suppliers, customers, and labor market. The organization also has an internal environment which includes the elements within the organization's boundaries. The external environment is composed of current employees' management and especially corporate culture, which defines employee behavior in the internal environment and how well the organization will adapt to the external environment. Exhibit 3.1 illustrates that the relationship among the general, task, and internal environments. As an open system, the organization draws resources from the external environment and releases goods and services back to it. We will now discuss the two layers of the external environment in more detail. Then we will discuss corporate culture, the key element in the external environment. Other aspects of the internal environment, such as structure and technology, will be covered in later chapters of this book. General environment. The general environment respects to the outer layer of the environment. These dimensions influence the organization over time but often are not involved in the day-to-day transactions with it. The dimensions of the general environment include international, technological, social culture, economic, legal, political, and natural. The international dimension of the external environment represents events originating in foreign countries as well as opportunities for U.S. companies in other countries. Note in Exhibit 3.1 that the international dimension represents a context that influences all other aspects of the external environment. The international environment provides new competitors, customers, and suppliers and shapes social, technological, and economic trends as well. Today, every company has to compete on a global basis. High quality, low price automobiles from Japan and Korea have permanently changed the American automobile industry. In cell phones and handhelds, US based companies face stiff competition from Korean Samsung, Finland's Nokia, and Taiwan's High Tech Computer Corporation or HTC. For many U.S. companies, such as Google, domestic markets have become saturated and the only potential for growth lies overseas. Google's mission is to reach even the most far-flung corners of the globe by providing search results in more than 35 languages and a translation features to users regardless of their native tongue. The most dramatic change in the international environment in recent years is the shift of economic power to China and India. Together, these countries have the population, brain power, and dynamism to transform with its low labor costs and huge potential market. China is luring thousands of US companies in search of growth opportunities. Yet University of New Haven's Usha or CV Halik recently found that only one-third of multinationals doing business in China have actually turned a profit. One reason Western businesses fall short of expectations, experts agree, is that they fail to grasp the centuries-old concept of guangsai that lies at the heart of Chinese culture. At its simplest level, guangsai is a supportive, mutually beneficial connection between two people. Eventually, those personal relationships are linked together into a network. And it is through these networks that business gets done. Anyone considering doing business in China should keep in mind that following basic rules. Business is always personal. It is impossible to translate "don't take it so personally, it's only business" into Chinese. Western managers tend to believe that if they conclude a successful transactions, a good business relationship will follow. The development of the personal relationship is an added bonus, but not really necessary when it comes to getting things done. In the Chinese business world, however, a personal relationship must be in place before managers even consider entering a business transaction. Western managers doing business in China should cultivate personal relationships both during and outside of a business hours, accept any and all social invitations for drinks, a meal, or even a potentially embarrassing visit to a karaoke bar. Don't skip the small talk. Getting right down to business and bypassing the small talk during a meeting might feel like an efficient use of time to an American manager. To the Chinese, however, this approach neglects the all-important work of forging an emotional bond. Be aware that the real purpose of your initial meetings with potential business partner is to begin building a relationship. So keep your patience if the deal you are planning to discuss never ever comes up. Remember that the relationships are not short term. The work of establishing the nurturing guangsai relationships in China is never done. Western managers must put aside their usual focus on short-term relationship results and recognize that it takes a long time for foreigners to be accepted into a guangsai network. Often, foreign companies must prove their trustworthiness and reliability over time. For example, firms that weathered the political instability that culminated in the 1989 student protests in Tiananmen Square found it much easier to do business afterwards. Make contact frequently. Some as experts recommend hiring ethnic Chinese staff members and then letting them do the heavy lifting in relationship building. Others emphasizes the Westerns themselves should put plenty in time and energy into forgiving links with Chinese contacts. Those efforts will pay off because the contacts can smooth the way by tapping into their own guangsai networks. Whatever the strategy, contact should be frequently and personal. In addition, be sure to keep careful track of the contacts you make. In China, any and all relationships are bound to be important at some point in time. and the labor supply with increasingly diversity both within organization and consumers markets. Consider the following key demographic trends in the United States. The United States is experiencing the largest influx of immigrants in more than a century. The Hispanic population is expected to grow to 102.6 million, an increase of 188% since 2000, and it will make up about a quarter of the US population by 2050. In this time period, non-Hispanic whites will make up only about 50% of the population, down from 74% in 1995 and 69% in 2004. 2. Members of Generation Y are flooding the workplace. To replace the 64 million skilled workers who will start retiring by the end of its decade, companies will be poised to attract Gen Y workers if they offer competitive salaries, flat hierarchies, support networks, work-life balance, challenging work, and feedback on performance. 3. The fastest growing type of living arrangement is single-father households, which rose 62% in 10 years, even though two-parent and single-mother households are still much more numerous. Demographic trends affect organization in other countries just as powerfully. Japan, Italy, and Germany are all faced with an aging workforce and customer base due to years of declining birth rates. In both Italy and Japan, the proportion of people over the age of 65 reached 20% in 2006. The economic dimension represents the general economic health of the country or region in which the organization operates. Consumer purchasing power, the unemployment rate, and interest rates are part of an organization's economic environment. Because organizations today are operating in a global environment, the economic dimension has become excessively complex and creates enormous uncertainty for managers. The economies of countries are more closely tied together now. For example, the economic recession and the decline of consumer confidence in the United States in the early 2000s has affected economies and organizations around the world. Similarly, economic problems in Asia and Europe had a tremendous impact on companies and the stock market in the United States. One significant recent trend in the economic environment is the frequency of mergers and acquisitions. Citibank and Travelers managed to form Citigroup. IBM purchased PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting, and Singular acquired AT&T Wireless. In the toy industry, the three largest toy makers, Hasbro, Mattel, and Tyco, gobbled up at least a dozen smaller competitors within a few years. At the same time, however, a tremendous vitality is evident in the small business sector of the economy. Entrepreneurial startups are significant aspects of today's U.S. economy and will be discussed in Appendix A. The legal political dimension includes government regularization at the local, state, and federal levels, as well as political activities designed to influence company behavior. The US political system encourages capitalism, and the government tries not to over-regulate business. However, government laws do specify rules of the game. The federal government influences organizations through the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, Fair Trade Practices, label status, allowing lawsuits against business, consumer protection legislation, product safety, managers must also recognize a variety of pressure groups that work within the legal political framework to influence companies to behave in socially irresponsible ways. Wake Up Walmart, a union bank campaign group, drums up public awareness of Walmart's business practices to force the retailer to improve workers' wages and health care benefits. The group's company director hopes smaller companies will then follow suit. Other activists have boldly petitioned Home Depot, which introduced the Eco-Option brand for its environmentally friendly products, to stop advertising on Fox News, whose hosts and commentators dismiss global warming as ludicrous. Ikaw ba? Ako dito ang propose. Hintay mo. Ako. May tawag na. Natural in response to pressure from environmental advocates, organizations have become increasingly sensitive to the Earth's diminishing natural resources and the environmental impact of their products. As a result, the natural dimension of the external environment is growing in importance. The natural dimension includes all elements that occur naturally on Earth, including plants, animals, rocks, and natural resources such as air, water, and climate. The natural dimension is different from other sectors of the general environment because it has no voice of its own. Influence and managers to meet needs in the natural environmental may come from others from other sectors, such as government regulation, consumer concerns, bad press in the media, competitors' actions, or even employees. For example, environmental groups advocate various action and policy goals that includes reduction and clean up of man-made pollution, development of renewable energy resources, and sustainable use of scarce resources such as water, land, and air. More recently, there has been a strong concern about climate change, such as the global warming caused by greenhouse gases, most notably carbon dioxide. Concerns about the environmental has prompted companies to take these actions, eliminating non-biodegradable plastic bags from the environment. Whole Foods will stop offering disposable plastic grocery bags in all 270 stores, replacing them with recyclable bags. This change means roughly 100 million plastic bags will be kept out of the environment in the first 8 months of the new program. Improving efficiency of plants and factories, Nissan Sunderland or UK factories will use 8 wind turbines to generate 6% of the plant's energy requirement, cutting carbon dioxide emission by 400 tons per year. Toyota recycles 100,000 tons of wastewater a year in its reverse osmosis facility in its Burnaston or UK plant. Investing in cleaner technologies or GE, which once polluted the Hudson River with polychlorinated biphenyls or PCBs, as, is, as it manufactured transformers, now promises that it will invest $1.5 billion annually in researching cleaner forms of technology by 2010, up from $700 million in 2004. Task environment. As I described earlier, the task environment includes the sectors that have a direct working relationship with the organizations, among them customers, competitors, suppliers, and the labor market. Customers, those people and organizations in the environment that acquire goods, services from the organization are customers. As recipients of the organization's output, customers are important because they determine the organization's success. Patients are the customers of hospitals, students, the customers of schools, and travelers and customers of airlines. Many companies are searching for ways to reach the coveted teen and youth market by trying marketing message into online social to understand and predict environmental needs and changes. As indicated in Exhibit 3.3, environmental characteristics that influence uncertainty are the number of factors that affect the organization and the extent to which those factors change. A large multinational like Nortel Networks has thousands of factors in the external environmental, creating uncertainty for managers when external factors change rapidly. The organization experiences high uncertainty. Examples are telecommunications and aerospace firms, computer and electronics companies, and e-commerce organizations that sell products and service over the internet. The companies have to make an effort to adapt to the rapid change in environment. When an organization deals with only few external factors, and these factors are relatively stable, such as those affecting soft drinks, bottlers of or foods processors, managers experience low uncertainty and can devote less attention to external issues. Adapting to the environment. If an organization faces increased uncertainty with respect to competition, customers, suppliers, or government regulations, managers can use several strategies to adapt to those changes, including boundary spanning rules, inter-organizational partnerships, and mergers or joint ventures. Boundary spanning rules. Department and boundary spanning rules link and coordinate the organization with key elements in the external environment. Boundary spanners serve two purposes for the organization. They detect and process the environmental about changes in the environmental, and they represent the organization's interest to the environment. Employees in engineering or research and development scan for new technological developments, innovations, and raw materials. People in departments such as marketing and purchasing span the boundary to work with customers and suppliers both face to face and through market research. Enlightened organizations operate on the basic assumption that people want to do a good job in these organizations. Employees are given more freedom and responsibility, and colleges trust one another and work cooperatively. The fundamental values that characterize an organization's culture can be understood through the visible manifestations of symbols, stories, heroes, slogans, and ceremonies. Symbols. A symbol is an object, act, or event that conveys meaning to others. Symbols can be considered a rich nonverbal language that vibrantly conveys the organization's important values concerning how people relate to one another and interact with the environment. For example, managers at a New York-based startup that provides internet solutions to local television's broadcaster wanted a way to symbolize the company's unofficial mantra of drilling down to solve problems. They bought a dented old drill for $2 and dubbed it the Teen Drill. Each month, the drill is presented to a different employee in recognition of exceptional work, and the employee personalizes the drill in some way before passing it on the next winner. Stories. A story is a narrative based on true events and is repeated frequently and shared among organizational employees. Stories paint pictures that help symbolize the firm's vision and values and help employees personalize and absorb them. A frequently told story at UPS concerned an employee who, without authorizations, ordered an extra Boeing 737 to ensure timely delivery of a load of Christmas package that had been left behind in the holiday rush. As the story goes, rather than punishing the worker, UPS rewarded his initiative. By telling the story, UPS workers communicate that the company stands behind its commitment to worker autonomy and customer service. A story of Toyota's founder, Kiichiro Toyoda, described below, illustrates its commitment to the Toyota Way, a set of values that serve as the foundation of Toyota's success. Toyota Motor Corporation, an automotive powerhouse, is the most profitable automaker in the world. Known for award-winning reliability and quality, Toyota leads the industry in manufacturing the customer service. At a time when GM and Ford are closing plants, Toyota plans to open 6 more plants in the next few years. Toyota is also a leader and innovator in hybrid technology. Toyota offers 6 Toyota and Lexus hybrid vehicles in the United States, where it has sold more than 500,000 hybrids, surpassing the rest of the industry combined. What makes this company so successful? For Toyota, the answer is strong corporate culture based on the Toyota Way. A popular story of Toyota's founder Kiichiro Toyoda demonstrates his commitment to the culture during the early days of the company's history. Toyoda visited a plant and found a worker scratching his head and muttering about how his grinding machine would not run. Toyoda rolled up his sleeves and thrust his hands into the machine's oil pan. He came up with 2 handfuls of sludge and threw them to the floor. "How can you expect to do your job without getting your hands dirty?" he exclaimed. He was the origin of one of the key elements of Toyota's culture, Genchi Genbutsu, meaning go and see. To Toyota employees, this means go and seek out facts and information that help you make good decisions, even if it means rolling up your sleeves and getting dirty. Heroes. A hero is a figure who exemplifies the dense character attributes of a strong culture. Heroes and role model for employees to follow.